I've seen more than one content creator advise that people don't change. And I think for practical purposes, this is true. Meaning that in considering your personal and business associations, the axiom that people don't change will serve you well. It is a healthy assumption to have about others, in that it is so rare for people to change that to place any wagers on it happening to a particular individual is almost always foolish. There are some people who simply cannot be trusted for one reason or another. Some people can't be trusted to tell the truth, and some people can't be trusted to do the right thing, even though they may tell the truth about it. Some people can't be trusted to get out of bed and show up at a certain place at a certain time. Some people can't be trusted to do the right thing when no one is looking. And people have a different reservation price for that particular failing. There are some people who would never steal, period. They deal with millions of dollars, and there's just nothing inside them that feels entitled to take anything, even if they could and get away with it. There are some people who would steal even things they don't need. These are extremes, with most people falling somewhere in between, meaning there's a relationship between the amount of payoff and the probability of getting away with it. And that relationship can get to a place where otherwise well-behaved people will try to pull a fast one. It's like everybody has their price. But some people don't have a price. They would never steal anything, no matter how easily they could get away with it. But you can't tell who has a price and who doesn't without some data. Even then, it's possible for a person to get in a situation that motivates them to do the wrong thing for their own survival or for that of their loved ones. Some people can't be trusted to keep their hands to themselves in one way or another, and it doesn't seem like a fixable thing. In my experience, the people who do these things have an inertia to them that keeps them doing them. And it's best to operate as if that is their permanent trajectory. People are best assumed to be unfixable if there's no relationship. Obviously, if there's a relationship, you want to help. But I'll relay an anecdote. I'm going to talk about somebody who I used to know, who I don't talk to anymore. I had a friend over 30 years ago. I was a teenager, an older teenager, emancipated. Anyway, if you talk to that friend today, he would probably tell you that we were good friends. Still, I never confronted him. We got along well right away. I enjoyed his company. But he turned out to be the kind of person who would stab you in the back and smile to your face and lie to themselves about the reality of what they've done, to the point where it seems like they came from another reality. This was the level of gaslighting. I was too inexperienced to recognize that the fact that I was his best friend would not spare me from the pathology that he poured out onto the rest of the world. Firstly, he was a thief, a person who pilfered a great deal of merchandise from his employer, and he eventually got fired for it. He didn't steal out of need, but rather it was like there was some kind of raven inside of him that just wanted to have shiny things hoarded into his nest. I made the mistake of living with him. It was 3 guys living in a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house that was built, I think, in the 1930s. The whole place back then cost us just under $400 a month. These 2 guys lived with me until they eventually moved out to live with their girlfriends. But this guy, he had like a free rider thing. I remember he just made the stand that to us 2 other guys that he wasn't going to be watching cable, so he wasn't going to buy cable. So it was incumbent upon the 2 of us, others, to get cable. And of course, the cable's there. It's like a public good. He definitely watched it. But while we were living together, he robbed me too, and he never fessed up to it. But the arrangement of the house was such that he had to pass through my room to get to his. I was a waiter at the time, and so I carried a lot of cash. And one morning I woke up, and he was standing at the foot of my bed. As I opened my eyes, he tossed my empty wallet down onto it, saying that he found it in front of the house empty.
For various reasons, this was extremely improbable, the whole scenario. And the fact that I knew he was a thief anyway left me feeling like he for sure did this. But what could I do about it besides show my ass? He very shortly thereafter purchased a bunch of merchandise that was close to the amount I lost in terms of its value. I was also foolish enough to tell him some personal business that he immediately took to the last people I would want to know and denied it. It had to do with a romantic rival, so to speak, and what this supposed friend leaked to this person motivated them to try to kill me. We were interested in the same girl, and I told my friend that she and I had gotten together. He immediately told this guy, as well as the girl, who didn't speak to me for decades after that. I didn't know that my weasel friend told this guy until one night when I was at a bar. One of my friends ran up to me and said some guy was cutting my tires. So when I went outside, what confronted me was this guy behind the wheel of a car trying to run me over in the parking lot. There were multiple other occasions where this person betrayed me in some way, and to this day, I'm guessing he doesn't understand why I will never try to rekindle that friendship. I'm just not going to make that bet that he's changed. It's possible that he's changed over the decades, but I'd be a fool to bet anything on it. I just think he thinks he's smarter than everybody else and that the world believes his lies. Once you've seen that in a person, you should walk away and cut your losses. All that said, the opposite is true relative to self-improvement. There's profit in trying to overcome these tendencies in oneself if they are recognized, if the departure from reality is not so extreme that they can't be recognized. But it takes, I think, suffering to motivate it, not just a resolution to be a better person, which almost never amounts to anything. And even if it does, it would only be nominal, like a Clockwork Orange. The improvement in character is a corollary to the addressing of suffering's underlying cause, which is an ignorance that an unconsciousness is not attributed to it, not attributed to suffering. I don't think this is accomplished through the willpower that averts the subject from temptation at every intersection, at every opportunity, but rather an addressing of the inner sense of lacking, of suffering, that motivates those urges. In unconsciousness, desires are addressed through either willful abstention or temporary relief through indulgence. Abstinence eventually fails or gives rise to some compensating alternative that in time, or perhaps even immediately, becomes problematic. And indulgence only gives way to new and greater hunger, like a stomach that stretches and then needs more to fill it next time. The hidden agent of lack behind desire is obsessive thinking. It's not hard to recognize this, as you can see how your actions are predicated by thought. A person who does a thing, a bad thing that gets in the news, has thought about it obsessively. And likewise, people who commit lesser offenses had some recurring or obsessive thought of what they sought to gain. But beyond the railroad tracks of thought that lead to pathological behavior is that hidden thing, that is no thing, that would eclipse the product of all desires were it realized, and in so doing would expose that which heretofore has precluded its apprehension, and in a way that is not reversible. Like the seeing of a rope once believed to be a snake, it cannot be feared again. There is a kind of fear based on an automatic but incorrect belief that, unbeknownst to its subject, is what hides that which they expect to gain from the object of desire. That hidden thing is a palpable peace that radiates from a heart rendered still in the absence of belief in being a thing that relates to other things. An unconscious person who is simply trying to behave well through willpower is like a man trying to be silent while carrying a bell that he cannot muffle. However, a person who has experientially realized the non-self nature of what appears in the awareness they are is as silent as a bell in which the clapper has been removed, that little ball on the inside that makes it ring. That clapper is the thought I. As long as there is identification with that, as well as the form related to it and all the thoughts about it that grow from it, there will be nonstop emotional reaction to thought and circumstance. If that unconscious belief is truly broken, then the abiding peace that appears in the wake of its absence destroys desire. Based on a sample size of 1, speaking for myself, this change is not a change of opinion about the nature of reality. It is a repurposing of energy, and that has palpable consequences for the body going through it. If the I thought stops running up and down the mental timeline by virtue of it no longer being a relational tool, but rather recognized as a dependently originated mental object appearing in the awareness one is, but having nothing to do with it, then this energy will become palpable. And its decoupling from personal, emotionally charged mental and situational content will change its vibrational level and its position, and resistance to it will cause distress. The fluctuations in that vibrational level in the face of delusion are instructive. So suffering creates the impetus to be with the feelings that underlie obsessive thoughts, to feel these feelings without ruminating on or resisting the thoughts relating to them. Just feel the feelings without resistance and letting them go. If unwanted thoughts are consistently dealt with in this way of feeling and not spiraling into mental proliferation, it can create a space that exposes the non-self nature of what appears in awareness, or rather it allows a space. It is understood that awareness is what one is, and thus nothing appearing in that awareness can be that any more than one could bite their own teeth, as Alan Watts put it, and maybe somebody before him. When the energy body becomes palpable, it can start small, as a tingle perhaps in the forehead, but its perception runs inverse to obsessive thinking, and this is observed, and that correlation can be a guide. Once the energy body is palpable, the consequences of delusional thinking are immediate. The suffering is right now because of the palpability of the energy body. Its antidote is known to be the realization that one is not anything relating to this. The awareness that's aware of this is no object appearing in itself to relate to things and win, lose, or be destroyed. Thus, there's no fear of this type that hides the peace of the non-relative truth, the moment. Conversely, delusional thoughts of the unconscious are stored up as karma, which is the mind, for later expression through action. For a liberated being, delusion is like a live wire or a hot stove. The consequence of its indulgence is immediately palpable, and therefore there is an immediate realization that one is not a thing relating to the content that inspired it. And so the hand of attention is removed from the live wire. It's not regarded as anything relating to one's self, because there is no thing appearing in awareness that is regarded as self to relate, and thus there's peace. Whereas the unconscious person does not immediately see the cause of their distress, and the suffering accumulates in them and then gets expression through action as that seeks its relief. This is karma. These actions are the pathology from which people cannot typically depart. So change is possible, but the on-ramp to it is not willpower and resolutions and determination to be better, but rather a suffering that leads to an earnest seeking of its cause and end.